Welcome to another edition of Your Impact Attack. That's right. Your Impact Attack. You heard that correctly. This belongs to you. Do with it what you will. The VBC is here. Once again, I'm the V. I'm tagging in the B. There's the hot tag. What's up, B?
Not a whole lot, man. And I promise you, even though it kind of sounds like it, we are not some sort of disease you get down there. Down where, pal? Down there.
Hey. No, we are not. But we are infectious. We are infectious. We are very lovable, charismatic, and contagious. So, and the people that are patient zero are filing into the C right now, which is the chat. Who do we got so far? As there will be more.
Let's see. We got Liz chilling with us. We got Gam Wolfers. We with the yeet. Yeah, pal. Good to see y'all. Whoop whoop.
Yeah, yeet. Is your dad gonna suggest that you go to AEW, Gam, if we don't start treating you better here in the chat? I mean, what's gonna happen? Speaking of AEW, we both seem to have our own versions of a watch along of All In on Sunday. I did the full real time one for 6 hours, and then you did a condensed version. I think would be the proper way to say it. So we probably had quite different experiences, but what did you take away from the show personally?
The biggest takeaway was even at 1.25, times speed, I had no trouble following along with it and understanding what was going on. Not one bit.
Yeah. Any thoughts on the events of the show?
The big matches, like the important matches, I felt they really delivered. Some of the ones below it, they did enough and got what they needed done. And then like the under stuff kind of was like, AEW.
Yeah. Well, they definitely moved it along. I'll say that whether in real time or at 1.25 speed, they've had a lot of they've had just a habit of cramming too many matches on the card, and that tends to, it contributes to audience fatigue. And then of course it's like every wrestler that goes on later and later in the night is like, you must just have to not watch or pay attention to the rest of the matches on that day, because if you do, you'll definitely be like, well, shit, what's left for me to do now? You guys already did everything. So you might as well just not pay attention and then just go out there, and if you repeat a spot, oh well. But
can I ask you a question? Have you ever personally wrestled on or witnessed or been in person to an IWA Mid-South show?
No.
Every single one I've ever been like in person to or actually been on, let's just say the amount of matches on the card are double digits. There's 3 intermissions, I think, at least 2, most of the times 3. It's Again, this is from my personal experience.
Yeah. Is that so? Are those situations where people are just showing up like, hey, I got my gear? Like, is that the kind of thing it is? And the card just keeps getting longer as people keep getting booked?
As one of those guys who showed up with my gear, like, hey, I'm here. Okay, multi-man pre-show. Sweet. Yeah, I can kind of say there's a little bit of that.
Let's see. Well, let's see. So, I mean, that's it. We gotta, if you guys hung out with us, you already know about All In. We're not going to turn this into an All In review show. Everybody worked hard on it. So, good for them. Other news that happened, obviously big news that people are hearing about, the passing of Sid Udy, Sid Vicious, Sid Justice, Psycho Sid, any of the ways that you knew this guy somewhere. Apparently he'd been in a battle with cancer for years, which I didn't hear really that much about, or if anything about. So they kind of kept that one quiet, at least as far as I know. But sadly, uh, his son posted on Facebook, that the battle's over and Sid has moved on. So very sad. Only 63. Um, Not really super involved in the wrestling business to any degree. Didn't have a podcast or anything that I knew of. Um, but man, what a guy! Like, if you think about, a lot of people would say, and I've even seen this just in some of the comments of like, other people commenting, other wrestlers and everything, that he was a good guy, and also, the prototype of what you would think of, like, oh, this guy looks like a wrestler. Like anybody that would think this is what a wrestler looks like, it's this guy, a giant hulking human being. In a matter of fact, he did the Lord Humongous gimmick from the Road Warrior, uh, the Mad Max movie, for a while there. But had a lot of memorable runs, and they were pretty much usually on top. I mean, he made it to the pinnacle of what you would consider wrestling. He main evented WrestleMania for the, WWF title. He actually main evented WrestleMania a couple times. Winning WCW championships. I mean, kind of did it all. So, um, you know, very at one point, like in that sort of like 96 period there, he was one of my favorite wrestlers to watch. I just want to see it. Is he going to powerbomb somebody? Like he had a match with Vader. I'm like, are you going to powerbomb Vader? And it was like the powerbomb was over. Like it was super over. Like that's one of those times where when people say, oh, wrestling's a bunch of moves and the moves don't matter and stuff. Well, sometimes they can if you really put a focus on that, the move can matter. And speaking of All In, like they tried to build a story around the Tiger Driver 91, so that's like a case of where they're trying to make a move matter. So, which ironically is a form of a power bomb. So, I guess something like that. Just the idea of like when this guy shows up, you're gonna see this move, and people get excited for it. The Dudleys kind of did that with tables later on in their career, but that's not really that's not like a move or anything. But yeah. So I always enjoyed watching Sid. Great promos. Even the ones that were like, you hear people say we're live pal all the time, which comes from a thing that, happened where he was starting to do a promo backstage, like, and he thought it was a pre-tape or something. And he said, I'm sorry, can we go again? Like, that's where it comes from. So,
good old
he
JR.
he immediately, yeah, he immediately pivoted and just said, like, anybody that has any questions will get their answer tonight. Like, that's the other half of that infamous, little flub there. He's just like, okay, I'll just make it real short and simple, and we'll finish this up. So yeah, but share some Sid memories, Brandon, if you would.
Interestingly, I used to have a friend who was very big into the West Memphis 3 case. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not.
Long story short, it ended up with 3. It was just, let's just say it was a really nasty murder that involved children being killed, and apparently, and 3 guys ended up getting framed for it. At least that's very much how it ended up looking like, and with one of the major actual perpetrators being one of the kids' dads. And my friend, who was very big into the case, told me a story about how Sid was actually one of the neighbors of one of the boys, and he witnessed one of the fathers being abusive, and he stepped in.
Well, that goes to the the good guy portion of of people's memories of him. I never really, I never met Sid, but yeah, I heard a lot of nice things about Sid the person. Um, there were some other not as nice things like the Arn Anderson incident, maybe, but stuff happens.
And I guess I'll go on a little bit of lighter side of things. There was an episode of Nitro they did where when Sid was a babyface, he brought a special manager to the ring who was somebody, let's just say, with special needs.
Mm-hmm. Um, yeah, man. Just well, it's I think a lot of us in at HMG, and also people that are in the HMG audience side. I think a lot of us are getting to that age, sadly, where we start to see these things more and more. We're getting at that age where we're surviving long enough to see other people that came before us, one after the other. A lot of wrestlers recently, with both the Wild Samoans and
What was that, 2 months than each other?
mm-hmm. It's just and I know there's there's been others recently, but it's it's never easy. But it also seems like it kind of like it piles up so fast. I couldn't even, it was to the point where, like, when I found out that, I felt like when Sika passed away and then Afa passed away, I was like, what was that, like last week? It was like 45 days ago. So time flies, guys. It's not slowing down, and it only seems like it speeds up the older you get. So, you know, it's just one of those things where if you have any unfinished business, don't let it stay unfinished if you can help it. That's all I can say. Um, any other final thoughts on Sid or anything else? Because I got another interesting news story to transition into as we go to TNA.
There is one more lighthearted Sid memory that I do
Okay.
remember. This time he came out to the parking garage to find his car completely crushed.
Goldberg! Yes. That definitely makes the rounds on social media and gives everybody quite a smile, I would imagine. Um. So yeah, master and ruler of the world, everybody. As long as he's not ruling it from his rental car, because that is now a pancake. Um. All right, so this is a little more TNA related news, and I had no idea just how in depth I would get on this until I started looking into it, because I just thought, we got 20 minutes before we go live. I think I'll just Google this real quick. And then it turns out there's quite a substantial bit here that I'm going to have to summarize. Um, I'm taking a lot of this from an article for Post Wrestling by Brandon Thurston. And I'll just read the first paragraph, and then I will attempt to sort of Cliff's notes as I go the rest of this long article here. Rich Swann was arrested on June 8th in Altamonte Springs, Florida, and charged with disorderly public intoxication and causing a disturbance, a misdemeanor offense. Let's see. Post Wrestling told by TNA that Swann is entering a substance abuse rehab program. And here's the part where it gets kind of like, eyebrow raising, let's say. The company first learned of Swan's arrest when we contacted them on Monday for comment. Now, if you remember, I just said this arrest took place on June 8th. So either they really did find out that this had happened during, like, when Thurston hit him up or whatever, or they kayfabed everybody until they got called out or whatever, and then they whatever. But in either way, this flew under the radar for like 2 months.
Yeah, those are the only two things it could be.
Right. Because you know how wrestlers are, Brandon. Like, you're going to hear something. Everybody talks about this. There's one. They're all on each other's business, like the gossipy bitches that they are. Even worse than, if you think your workplace gossip is bad, just don't be a wrestler locker room. Let's put it that way. But anyway, so yeah. This is a public arrest report from Seminole County, Florida. So this is like public information. Let's see. Swan was just described as some attempting to forcefully enter an apartment door at approximately 9:50 p.m. There's a report. The report filed by Zane Hoskins of the Altamonte Springs Police Department says, I was getting into the shower when I heard a loud banging coming from the front door, the resident who called the police said in a sworn statement. When my son started yelling for me to come to the door, I came out of the bathroom and heard the loud banging, so I went to my room and grabbed my handgun. I announced that I had a gun and for whoever was banging on my door to leave. When Swan allegedly started yelling, "This is my house," the apartment resident opened the door and showed his gun. Swan was said to have reacted by backing up and leaving the property. That's when he called the police. They said that then he told the police that Swan ran away towards the woods nearby. This is the apartment address was a short walk from his own address. So he was just too drunk to remember, or too intoxicated, whatever, he went home to the wrong house. Basically what happened, which I'm sure people have seen that happen before, and hopefully it never happened to you, but maybe it did. Okay, then they received another call from a woman in the same neighborhood. She had gone to her son's apartment to pick up Amazon packages when she encountered Swan. Quote, I heard a male trying to talk to me. He started following me and I asked him to stop. According to the report, he responded, what do you mean stop following you? So I started running as he followed me up to my door, but I managed to get inside and lock it before he could get in, is what she said in her statement. Officers picked up Swan, took him into custody, brought him back to the first apartment. They used FaceTime. They confirmed that, yes, this is the guy that tried to get in my apartment. He didn't want to press charges for anything. Like, he didn't, apparently Swan had damaged his door knocking on it. He didn't want to press charges for that. Police report describes Swan as incoherent, appearing to be intoxicated, smelled alcohol in his breath, eyes glassy, speech slurred. Zane Hoskins' report said, I asked if Richard had any drinks containing alcohol. He stated that he did. When asked how many, he stated a lot. I asked Richard, when did he start to drink? And he told me around 1900 hours, which was 3 hours from that time, I guess. His actions while intoxicated caused multiple disturbances, and his behavior caused several residents concern for their safety. So that's the charge. The arrest report states, driven to the Polk Correction Facility in Sanford, Florida, 10 miles from where he was arrested, released the following day on a $250 bond according to court records, submitted an affidavit of indigency, which is an application a defendant can use to claim they cannot afford an attorney and should be appointed a public defender. His application was denied, and he was charged $50. On the application, Swan indicated that he's homeless, although other records indicate he has a home address. Swan is being defended by a private attorney from, I'm not making this up, I don't know the correlation here, but the Joshi law firm in Orlando. uh, I don't know if he just got some female Japanese wrestlers to represent him in court, or if there's actual, that's just somebody's name.
I gotta go with that. That's just some sort of random, roulette. All right, 00.
Yeah. Okay. Pre-trial hearing on Wednesday. Swan wasn't present. His defense attorney attended. Plea hearing date for September 4th. Must appear at that, or he risks forfeiture of his $250 bond. Everybody's been subpoenaed for the case of September 9th. Police body camera and car camera footage will be included in the discovery. Swan was charged with the same offense in September 2022, an incident not previously reported in media, when he was arrested for allegedly causing a disturbance while intoxicated at the apartment complex where he lives. The court ordered him to pay $351.49 related to that charge. And so I'm going to read this paragraph verbatim. TNA first became aware of these incidents when we reached out for comment on this report. The company commented on Wednesday, saying it's taking immediate steps to address the situation internally and that Swan has voluntarily entered a substance abuse rehabilitation program. This is their quote to Post Wrestling. TNA Wrestling takes any and all charges against his performance seriously. Rich Swann is responsible for his own personal actions. He has informed TNA Wrestling that he is voluntarily entering into a substance abuse rehabilitation program. TNA Wrestling has suspended Rich pending the completion of its investigation into the incidents. So 6 days after the arrest, he wrestled at Against All Odds, which we saw. He's appeared on the tapes after that, which we've seen. Then it goes on to detail his 2017 false imprisonment and simple domestic battery charges, which we remember that came from his wife, which they later dropped. She dropped those charges, and WWE suspended him at that time and was released 2 months later. So that's the Rich Swann news. Well, look, I'm not going to sit here on a soapbox and preach to anybody. I mean, this is just clearly the man has had a history of problems, and if he's a voluntarily entering his substance abuse program, then I hope it helps him. But it's also good that we get a handle on things before anybody's seriously hurt. It seems like he's never pulled over for drunk driving or these kind of things. It seems like he's just wandering around on foot all the time, and people people, including himself, think he's homeless. So, and you take one look at Rich Swann, and yes, he does look homeless. And like Liz points out, he's only 33, so he's a very young man. Yeah, I mean, one of Rich Swann's one of the good things about Rich is the fact that he was homeless, and he has sort of overcome that and turned his life around and become something, and is making a living in professional wrestling, which he's talented as a professional wrestler. So it's a feel-good story. And I think that when we hear these type of things, this is like, this probably stems back to that. I mean, when you live on the streets, there's a lot of people that like that becomes the lifestyle. I think there's a misconception a lot of people have that everybody who's homeless is like, oh, they must have just, they must have just fallen on hard times. No. Most of the homeless people that live as homeless and live in camps and all these other things and stuff like that, they're addicts who no longer have anywhere to stay because their friends and family can't support them because they will steal from their friends and family to support their drug habits, or they don't even have any friends and family to steal from. Most normal people that become homeless just like live in their car or stay with a friend or family until they get back on their feet and everything. They don't remain homeless for long. But if you're on the streets for a period of time because you're an addict, then you're always going to be that addict, and you're always going to try to fight to, like, if you're doing like Rich Swann did and came out of the streets and is trying to clean up your life, that means you have to fight being an addict every day, and apparently sometimes you lose. So, I'm sympathetic to that because he just won't. Because I'm glad that he refused to just turn into a street person, and he didn't want to be that. But just the fact that he like he when he's intoxicated, it's like it sounds like from these reports that he's going back in time when he's drunk to when he was on the street. Like mentally, it seems like it takes him back in time because he's saying that he thinks he's homeless or whatever on his reports or whatever. So it's like, clearly you're not homeless, but you're not in your right mind. So I just, it's just extremely unfortunate. And I hope that this time, Rich can just get on the wagon and stay on it. Moving forward. That's the only thing I can really say. I can't. I'm surprised to hear that TNA did not know about it. Like I said, but I mean, we point out lots of stuff that TNA should know that they don't fucking know about the wrestling business. So I can understand that they're not keeping tabs on everybody's personal, private lives. I don't know. It's just a messed up situation. So I hope it turns out. I could make a joke about Top Dollar, introducing him to the finer things in life and corrupting him, but I'm sure he's also very disappointed. And hopefully he's going to be one of those, like, all the jokes that are made about AJ Francis or whatever. He seems like a genuinely, like, a good-hearted guy, and I'm sure he's in Rich's corner, and he'll probably be one of the people that's part of his support system if and when, he gets himself cleaned up and comes back. So
Yeah, hopefully he does. He has a lot to live for. He's got a wife and daughter who need him. That most importantly.
Yep. So yeah. So that's your news for the week, unless there's anything else we should talk about.
Colin's got something.
TNA leaving YouTube. Got to get TNA Plus now. Okay, good luck with that. Their audience is gonna be severely diminished now.
I do not know. I mean, unless like, the free stuff is coming to their content or to their app.
I mean, You're asking a lot to you know, if stuff is on YouTube, people still really don't want to pay for it, but they might because YouTube's very convenient for people. Um, you ask people to sign up for an extra $10 a month for some other app that's only going to be that. Good luck, is all I can say.
Yeah, if anything, like teenagers will stick around and use it as like a platform to try to drive traffic to their, paid content.
Yeah. I mean, I watched All In on YouTube. You know, like there's that made it very very easy and convenient for me. They also show it on a bunch of other weird apps. It's fucking Bleacher Report and like Triller TV, which used to be Fight TV or things like that. And I'm like, I'll just use YouTube because I have it and it's easy and it's tied to Google for me, so it's no big deal, you know. Um, and I'm sure a lot of people that would watch TNA like premium events on YouTube felt the same way. Like, oh yeah, I'll throw TNA a couple bucks, just add it to my YouTube, Google Pay, whatever. You know, they're not gonna want it as much, but we'll see. We'll see. Um. So any should we move on? Speaking of TNA, should we move on to our meat and potatoes here?
Meat and potatoes. That sounds good, pal.
Yeah. Well, it sounds better than this episode. So we're gonna kick off with a ketchup packet. I didn't make a note of a ketchup packet. I'm sure they had one. I probably just didn't write it down. We got one here anyway, whether they did or not.
You're always covered, pal.
Yeah. So we're kicking off with a 3-way qualifier for the Ultimate X. It's Hammerstone versus the King, Frankie Kazarian, versus Kushida. They have a match, Nightmare Pendulum on Kushida. And then afterwards, Kaz beats up Kushida. Just starts kicking him. Okay. I already forget. Did something happen between Kushida and Frankie Kazarian? Are they still mad about that one thing from way back when he was with the machine guns? Like, is this long-term storytelling at its finest?
We got it. We got to find something, pal. Anything happened between them in the past? Yeah, go with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we go backstage to Eric Young with Gia, no music underneath, and then he's basically saying like, hey, I got Hammerstone next week or whatever. So and then Burt Macklin comes in and he's like, I'll be watching. And, okay. Burt Macklin and Eric Young, do we care?
Nope.
Okay. All right, do we care about Santana? He's sitting backwards on a chair again like he likes to do. Until he gets up and throws it against the wall because he's an animal. He's got to become an animal. Yeah. Yeah, the system has been warned. There's an animal on the loose, and his name is Mike Santana. Mike Santanimal. Let's trademark that. Trademark that, Mike. You're going to want that. It's going to be a good one for later. Santanimal. It's a whole line of t-shirts. I see it. Let's see here. Okay, you can go ahead and take that down. Alicia with Masha versus Rosemary, who also is homeless looking. Yeah, these ladies have a match. Spitfire comes out. They beat up Masha Slamovich. Rosemary hits the wing clipper on Lish, and there we go. I'm kind of speeding through this, but it really is like this. It's like a bunch of stuff is happening, and it's like everybody's like, anyway, moving on. So I don't know. What am I supposed to do with this? What does this mean that Rosemary has beaten one half of the tag team champions?
It means Havoc's coming back, pal.
Does it?
That'd be my best guess.
And what is Spitfire like? They're just like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just the problem. Maybe I'm just missing all the nuance that they're putting into this. It could be me. I'll admit that. Um, Concierge and Ash are in this blue and purple hallway. Hashtag turn off the lights. Something about Ash is like, for her match against Jordan Grace, she wants something like, she wants to call it a match by elegance, whatever that means, right? And we're supposed to think that. That's actually how we're supposed to think. That's not just me being a dick. The announcer's like, what does that mean? Like, because she doesn't specify. She leaves it vague. It could be anything. Um, but here was the interesting part that I noticed about this, because who cares about the angle or the people or whatever? So they shoot this in this hallway and they put those lights, the RGB lighting in the background so that it shines through and like you can't really see the foreground of where they are. So like it's basically saying like, okay, we're shooting in the building somewhere where it just looks like just a random hallway, but we're disguising that with light so you can't really see how it's just a random hallway. It looks like they're in some like, ethereal place, befitting of somebody like Ash by Elegance, right? So as soon as they walk out of frame, the camera like refocuses and then you can see past the light and you can see that they're just in some random hallway. Like there's like a roll up door in the back and it just looks like, yeah, it just really does look like. I thought the whole point of you shooting it like that was to make it seem like you're fancier than you are, but then you just expose the industrial nature of your background dressing. So, okay, fine, sure. Um, oh, speaking of okay, fine, sure. Here's our big angle, with the PCO and Steph Delander wedding. We're getting our match now. It's Zaya Brookside, Rhino, and PCO versus Steph Delander, right? Against her will, I guess. I guess the company booked her in this match. Like, yeah, I know you don't want to, but here you go. Um, and then Matt Cardona is supposed to be in this match with a mystery partner, but then he comes out and says, I'm not medically cleared. TNA didn't do their due diligence, which, as we heard at the top of the show, that's a shoot. They're not doing their due diligence. So anyway, yeah, he says he's not medically cleared, but he's got two mystery partners. And to everyone's delight, it turns out that Big Con is one of the mystery partners, and the returning Madman Fulton is one of the mystery partners. Remember Madman Fulton?
Hooray.
I wonder if he's back or if he just getting one payday. Yeah. Well, whatever.
I'd say most more like a build up to one pay-per-view and that's about it. Like maybe Emergence. Who knows?
Who knows? And again, word of the day, who cares? I'm sorry. And apparently they felt the same way because PCO hits the PCO salt on Fulton for the win in this match. Yes, and this was an intergender match, not a mixed tag match, because they were just beating up Zaya Brookside for a while. These giant guys, and yeah, they get some heat on the little girl. Yeah. Well, you got any thoughts on this great blow-off match for this angle here?
What was the point?
Did you like how Matt Cardona was like yelling at Steph Delander, like, why didn't you help? Oh boy. I don't know.
Yeah, pal.
All right, we got a package for Dolph and Josh. They were going to have an Iron Man match. I bet you can't wait for this. They love to have these 60-minute matches with Josh Alexander, boy, let me tell you. And even in this training montage that they're showing, this even looks like they show Josh Alexander talking about how he's like the best wrestler and everything, and he's like they show him like swimming in a pool, like he's training every day, and they show him swimming in a pool, and it's like, are you guys ribbing the Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels thing, where like, you know, if they showed Josh Alexander like sadly jogging in the freezing cold or whatever, like I would have been totally convinced, but yeah, I don't know. I got that vibe there. I don't know about you, but when I saw Josh Alexander swimming, I'm like, this is this is a rib on Brett for some reason. Um.
I don't know,
All right,
maybe.
Jordan Grace does not care what the stipulation is for her match. She doesn't care what a match by elegance is, so she's on board with us then. Then, oh man, here's a who cares match. This was weird. You actually threw out a couple of these names last week, and I was like, huh, I remember those guys. And then here they are. Laredo Kid versus Jay Vidal and Bhupinder Gujar, which I was certain that the last two guys don't work here anymore. And we're not in Las Vegas, so Jay Vidal has no reason to be here. Apparently they do. They do still work here, or at least they did today. Jay Vidal did a top dollar. If you caught that, he tried to do a dive by jumping off of somebody, and he just fell over the ropes and hit the floor. But Laredo Kid does end up winning, so he'll be in the Ultimate X match.
Yeah, pal.
Yeah, okay. Hey, Rich Swann, you remember him? He's complaining about not having a
Yeah, I think he knocked on my door earlier.
yeah, was that him? Okay. Well, he he's complaining that he got screwed out of his three-way match, and then Mike Bailey comes up and he's like, "Hey, you know what? I'll give you a shot." So next week, Rich Swann versus Speedball for the X Division Championship. This is way better than having to compete in an Ultimate X match. Just go complain in front of somebody. All right. Here's the highlight of the show easily. Charlie Dempsey versus Jonathan Gresham. And yeah, no more shots for Rich Swann. Yes, revamped wrestling.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
So these guys have a wrestling match, and I know that's you're probably thinking, well, yeah, everybody has a wrestling match, but no, I mean these guys are wrestling in the wrestling match, and this is all like, you know, technical wrestling and holds and reversals, and they're, you know, this is what Jonathan Gresham's really good at, and it's one of the reasons I assume that Charlie Dempsey's in this match, because they're like, hey, go have a match with Jonathan Gresham. We don't want to hire him because he's too short, but you could learn something from him. So, you know, go work with him. And yeah, this was it was very entertaining to me. I don't know how the average fan might perceive it, but like I found it entertaining, especially the finish. What about you though? Did you see anything in this match that, or is this your type of entertaining match? Has wrestling gotten so far away from actual wrestling that when something like this comes on, you find it more entertaining, or do you think that the sport has left this stuff behind and it's boring now? What do you personally think?
I mean, I thought like this is a match was a good match. If anything, I just wish a little bit of spice would have been, you know, a little story character spice would have been a little thrown in there to build up to it. Other than that, I thought it was a pretty good match. Both guys worked together. The finish was out of nowhere and kind of, you know, help build suspense and make you believe, like when you see something like that, the match can end right there.
Yep. And what he's referring to is, so they're doing that thing where he's like, he's got like the knuckle lock, right? They've got the knuckle lock, and he's trying to like pin Dempsey's shoulders to the mat, and Dempsey keeps getting his shoulder up, and then Gresham he's got his knee over Charlie Dempsey's right arm, pinning that down on the mat, and his left arm is coming up, so he's locked in with his left arm, and Gresham pushes his arm down and like puts his forearm across Dempsey's forearm and just straight pins him like a shoot pin, like for a 3 count. And the referee's like, "Hey, all right, ding ding ding." And then Dempsey's like, "What the fuck?" He punches Gresham while he's still on top, or like throws a forearm or something at him, and then they start to like kind of like push each other and hit each other back and forth, and then like, so it was like the wrestling contest turned into animosity, which, that's kind of the idea for all pro wrestling matches. I mean, you're supposed to start out with a basic rule set that you follow, and now everybody's just like, the bell rings and you just immediately start throwing closed fist punches and diving over the top rope. It just, it leaves you nowhere else to go from there. Like if you start with diving, where do you go? Furniture, setting guys on fire, like broken glass.
Give me cinder blocks, pal.
Yeah, give me a cinder block.
Hashtag cinder block work.
So it's nice to see some wrestling for a change, but now it's like anybody that does wrestling is like, "Oh, you're the weirdo." What are you doing trying to wrestle? But yeah, I thought it was good.
Ooh, that's a good point that Revamp just brought up. Do you think that might hurt the TNA NXT relationship a little bit?
No. They don't care. They already knew it. They knew what they had with Rich Swann back then, so they're not,
And also too, WWE's covered up a lot worse.
Right. But speaking of which, Joe Hendry's adventures in NXT continue. They show how he became the #1 contender for their title, and they also show Zachary Wentz attacking Wes Lee, setting up something with them in the future. So that's that. And now we're at the main event. It's the Hardys versus Moose and JDC, also known as Dirty Dango. The good news is, hey, Moose is in a match again. That's 2 weeks in a row. The bad news is, well, I don't know if it's bad news. I have a legitimate question. This is to everybody. And I'm not, this isn't a rhetorical. I'm looking for an answer here. I want to take the temperature. I want to hear what you guys think. In 2024, who wants to watch the Hardy Boys as a tag team? I want to know who like legitimately is like, yes, please, Hardy Boys tag team. Yes, me, sign me up. I just want to know who is feeling like that.
Unless it was a new fresh coat of paint, a rebirth, completely different act, which I believe they could pull off. Sure. One of their previous, things, not so much.
Right. Because you got to remember, if this is what you want, this is what you're getting. You're getting these Hardys, these guys, which, a lot of people didn't really think too much about it back in 99, 2000, whatever. But even then, it was like, they were a very specific kind of, attraction. But
they were the demolition derby of the show.
Right. And I think they were quite overrated at the time because they were more unique. And then they inspire a generation of wrestlers, and now they look less unique. The originals now look less unique, and they're old and broken down. So you're in there, and like Moose and Dango are like, have to kind of hard carry this thing. Not that the Hardys aren't trying. It's the most I've seen Jeff do in a long time in a match. Not that any of it looked particularly good, but hey, in his defense, it never did. But I don't know. I don't know, but it's just so that they can hit the swanton on Dango and go over. That's what this is for. And then afterwards, the system comes out to beat up the Hardys, and then we eventually get Santana out to help and Joe Hendry out to help. So we got the Hardys, Hendry, and Santana there. We've got the system there. I mean, looks like we've got a 4-on-4 for something.
For emergence, player.
All right. Well, that's our show. Relatively uneventful, especially considering it is it's not the go home for Emergence. There'll be one more show before Emergence, but I mean, kind of a whole lot of nothing, really. At least Jeff hasn't had any problems that we know. Man, Revamped is on fire tonight. Yeah, he's had a clean career. Never burned his house down and killed his dog or anything. So, Brandon, I guess it's up to you to save this steaming pile.
And as always, we punch up here.
That's right.
All right,
Punch up with a low blow. Take this, TNA.
All right, so let's start her off with ketchup packet.
Delicious.
And our recap, go to the intro, Pyro and Ballyhoo announce table, rundown card for tonight. Talk about recent events, give their thoughts. Open with an in-ring of the System and Broken Hardys. The System music and entrance. The System cut a promo where they do a brief recap of their history with the Broken Hardys. Broken Hardys music and entrance. Matt says, why wait till tonight? Matt and Jeff start walking towards the ring. ABC music and entrance. Bay says that since they don't have challengers for the tag titles at Emergence, the winners of the main event should get a shot at the tag titles. Santino music and entrance. Santino makes the match a number one contenders match before ABC leave the shot and they go backstage. Brawl breaks out with the System getting the upper hand until Mike Santana and Joe Hendry run out to even the odds. And the announcers mention that something is happening in the back. Gia approaches the car that just pulled up. Wes Lee gets out of the car and begins walking towards the building. Gia asks him what he's there for, and he remains silent before we go to our first commercial break. We go backstage with Wes Lee. Wes is looking for someone. Wes sees Trey and has with his back to him. Wes attacks Trey and leaves him laying. And Wes tells Trey to tell Zach to watch his back because he's getting him tonight. They go to our first match. Alexander Hammerstone versus Frankie Kazarian versus Kushida. Alexander Hammerstone music and entrance. Frankie Kazarian music and entrance. Kushida music and entrance. Condensed version of match on the show. Pre-tape Eric Young and Steve Macklin, same as on the show. Pre-tape Mike Santana, same as on the show. Match number 2, Rosemary versus Alicia Edwards. Rosemary music and entrance. Alicia music and entrance. Condensed version of match on the show. Backstage, Trey McGill and Zachary Wentz. Trey approaches Zachary and tells him what just happened as well as Wes's message. Zachary says he'll find Wes first and walks away. Commercial break number 2. Go to pre-tape of Ash by Elegance, same as on the show. Match number 3, PCO, Zaya Brookside, Rhino versus Steph DeLander, Khan, Madman Fulton. PCO music and entrance alongside Zaya and Rhino. Matt Cardona music and entrance with Steph DeLander. Matt says Steph will take his place since he's not cleared to wrestle before he introduces his partners. Khan music and entrance alongside Madman Fulton. Condensed version of match on the show. Let's see. And then package, Nick Nemeth versus Josh Alexander, same as on the show. Pre-tape, Jordan Grace, same as on the show. Vignette, Joe Hendry. A parody video making fun of Ethan Page to build for their NXT Championship match. Pre-tape, Giselle Shaw and Gail Kim. Giselle asks what's next after defeating Tasha Steelz. Gail says that Giselle has one more match to wrestle before getting the title shot. And that match is against Gail Kim at Emergence. Backstage, Zachary Wentz. Zachary is still looking for Wes. Someone says they saw Wes in another part of the backstage area before Zachary heads in that direction. 3rd commercial break. They go to our fourth match: Laredo Kid versus Bhupinder Gujjar versus Jay Vidal. Laredo Kid music and entrance, Bhupinder Gujjar music and entrance, Jay Vidal music and entrance. Condensed version of the match on the show. Announcers say that Zachary Wentz has encountered Wesley and they're fighting. We cut immediately backstage to Zachary Wentz and Wesley. They brawl through the backstage area until they get to the parking lot where Wes's car is. Someone wearing a hood emerges from the car and attacks Wentz from behind before he and Wes get in the car and drive away. Commercial break number 4. We go backstage to the trainer's room where Zachary Wentz is getting treated. Trey enters and asks if he's okay. Wentz says that 2 of them are going to NXT on Tuesday to find out who is with Wes. Backstage, First Class and Mike Bailey, same as on the show. Match 5, Charlie Dempsey versus Jonathan Gresham. Charlie Dempsey music and entrance, Jonathan Gresham music and entrance. Condensed version of match on the show. Post-match, Dempsey beats down Gresham. Gresham begins to show signs of being ill. Gresham begins spitting up black ink and becomes horrified at what he's seeing. Dempsey and the ref quickly bail from the ring. Pre-tape, Ethan Page cuts promo running down Joe Hendry in TNA. Talks about his history at TNA. Josh Alexander enters the shot and says that Ethan Page might have a little TNA in his future. Match number 6, Good Hands versus Indie Tag Team. Good Hands music and entrance. Indie Tag Team already in the ring. And then Good Hands beat them. Sami Callihan comes out. Says he has a little work he needs some good hands for, and they go to the back.
Can we cut this and put more time back on the Gresham and Dempsey match?
We could, maybe.
Maybe.
Then they go
That's my only
backstage.
note so far.
And then they go backstage to the trainer's room. Gresham wants some treatment for why he was spitting up black ink. Kushida enters the trainer's room. Kushida admits that
With
he
a lab
believes
coat?
Yes, in a lab coat.
Okay.
Gresham admits that he believes there might be something weird going on, and he saw the footage of Kushida experimenting on the ink. Kushida says he'll email the results before he backs away. Backstage, the System locker room and the Broken Hardys locker room. Both groups hype the teams, or both groups hype their teams before we going into the main event. Commercial break number 5. New Japan hype video, announce table, rundown current emergence card, rundown card for next week. Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards music and entrance for our main event. Broken Hardys music and entrance. Jeff finishes. Jeff hits Swanton and Moose hits the Swanton and Moose. JDC hit the ring. Or wait, did I fuck that up?
I don't know.
Yeah, I did fuck.
Are they even broken? Are they even broken anymore?
All right, I'm sorry. I might have fucked some of these names up, but let's roll with it.
Okay.
All right, Moose and JDC hit the ring to pull the ref out. Hendry and Santino hit the ring to join the fight. Match is thrown out. All 8-men brawl. Santino music and entrance. Santino books the 8-man tag team main event for Emergence. And the winning team, each member of the winning team gets whatever match that they want.
Well, then they all want a world title match, I imagine. Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I rather would have watched that show, I guess, than what we got. Revamped was yelling at me to wake up, but I guess I gotta remind everybody that, like when Brandon does the punching up thing to help me visualize what he's saying, I always close my eyes. Because if I'm looking at him or if I'm looking at the chat or something, like his words tend to filter through my brain without me getting it. So like I always try to like close my eyes and just picture what he's saying. So I'm not actually sleeping or bored. I've been doing this for a while now. It's just how I visualize like the words that he's saying, and I try to like actually picture it as a show as he's saying it. So just to clear that up one more time. But yeah. Let's see. Well, there it is. So the next time we see you, we'll have to talk about Emergence and whatever other bullshit that they put on before Emergence that they call a go home show. Um, I picture that Liz says I picture Veta seeing little wrestling figures acting things out in his head. It's like it's like a Robot Chicken episode in my brain. Uh,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
um, so I mean, so we got that coming up. We got to see what happens on NXT this week, especially if Brandon has rewritten history and now the Rascals are going back there and they're not invited. That'd be funny if they're like, we'll show up at NXT next week and we'll sort this out. And then like security's like, you guys can't come in. We didn't clear this. So yeah, show us your thought bubble like Apollo Crews on NXT. I told you, Labrat, they're very stingy with that amazing technology that they have down at the Performance Center. I don't even know if the government has their hands on this technology.
Such good shit, pal.
Not only can we see the future, I don't know if you remember this, Brandon, but when they were doing this angle where Apollo Crews could see the future, but not only can he see the future, we can see him see the future. Like we see inside his brain, like the vignette that plays, that's directly out of Apollo Crews's future seeing brain. And instead of like envisioning something like the Powerball numbers or whatever, he was thinking how things would go in wrestling matches. So yeah, waste of technology all around down there at NXT. Um, so, uh, so even if they're wasting your time, we appreciate your time. We thank you for spending it with us. We couldn't do it without you. I mean, we could, but we'd rather not. We'd rather do it with you. So thank you very much for hanging out with us on a Monday night, smack dab in the middle of Monday Night Raw. And we will let you get back to your Monday night. And first, we'll tell you where you can find us. Brandon, start with you.
As always, you can find me on Twitter, or as the kids call it these days, the X at LG Brandon Whoop. I am also the Twitch channel still under construction, but it's twitch.tv/LG Brandon Whoop Whoop. Also find me on Substack at HMG Brandon. And also I'm on the HMG YouTube channel doing the watch alongs. This week's schedule, if you're watching this live, we got AEW Dynamite on Wednesday. It'll be a late start because we got to wait for the A show to finish up. And then we got SmackDown on Friday. And it looks like we're going long on Saturday with replays of Bash in Berlin, followed by Emergence.
Oh,
which all
my
of them,
goodness gracious.
Which, heads up, all of them are going to be at 1.25 times speed.
All right. Well, look forward to that. As for me, you can find me at Opinion Haver on all your favorite social media platforms. You can find me every Wednesday at the Next Level Wrestling Review with Big Ray Hernandez, talking about the NXT half of this collaboration. 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern there. If you want me to talk about AEW, then you're going to want to tune into The Wreckage, because Jimmy T and I will now be covering all that AEW has to offer with a one-stop recap. The Wreckage is now, it's the entire company's Wreckage, not just Saturday nights. So you'll get a Dynamite, a Rampage, and a Collision recap. And we'll try to keep it in the same condensed time frame. We're not going to go as in-depth on some of this stuff. But that's what the Wreckage will be moving forward. So if you want to check us out, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern on Sundays. And what else? That's everything for me on the HMG side. If you want to check out some other HMG adjacent people, you may want to check out Wrestling with Rip Rogers every Concrete Friday, except when they're not. Like this past week, they were not able to go live, but they should be back. And if you want to check out, if you want to ever ask Rip Rogers a question, usually the Concrete time would be Fridays at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. It's a good time for wrestling shows. Then you have Stevie Richards, who also has a show on Friday, the Stevie Richards Show that drops on YouTube. And it is a show, and you'll want to see Stevie Richards' whiteboard segments. this past week he was talking about let's see, the 5 stars was 2 weeks ago. This week was Hulk Hogan and all of his many, many lies, which not only are the lies themselves entertaining, if you've never heard some of these ones that Hulk Hogan has said, but James and Stevie's reactions and jokes about the lies were all worth the price of admission.
She was almost a Metallica brother.
Yeah. Yeah, never heard of him. So that check out the Stevie Richards show. The Like I said, the YouTube version drops every Friday. It also in a podcast version as well if you have to listen to it on the go like I do. So so there you go with that. And of course JTG's got his YouTube channel, it's going strong, building up every week. He's looking for more fan questions, so submit some questions for a future Q&A over at Jay the God on YouTube. And then this most recent episode was him looking back at his SummerSlam match with Crime Time versus Jericho, which is one of his favorite matches. So go check out that video and check out everything else. I guess that's it. So for Brandon, I'm the vet, and I don't have a sign-off line.